Good afternoon, students. Welcome to your social science class. Today we are going to begin with the third chapter of your civics, that is the Indian judiciary. See students, as we have already studied in our previous chapter that there are three organs of the government. What are the three organs of the government? Legislature, executive, and the judiciary. Okay. Now see students, these two organs, that is legislature and executive, they are interrelated to each other. Okay, they are interrelated to each other. How come they are interrelated? The members of the legislature, they only becomes the prime minister as his council of minister. I mean the ruling party in the legislature. Okay, whereas on the other hand, the executive, that is prime minister and his council of minister, they are individually as well as collectively responsible to the legislature for their everyday task. Okay. Now, in this chapter, in chapter 3, we are going to study about the third organ of the government or the judiciary. Okay. See students, the judiciary or the Indian judiciary is an independent body. Okay. It is an independent body. Now, these two organs are interrelated, whereas this has been kept as an independent organ. Okay. Why it has been kept as an independent organ? Okay, so that the judiciary can become the final interpreter of the constitution, so that the judiciary can take its decision neutrally in an unbiased way. Okay, and the judiciary as an independent organ, it also instructs the governor as well as the president regarding the making of law. Okay, not only that, if any dispute arises between the different states or if any dispute arises between the central government as well as the state government, in that situation the judiciary as an independent body, it guides both the state as well as the center. Okay. And the judiciary also protects our fundamental rights. So for all this purpose, that is for protecting our fundamental rights, for making an unbiased interpreter of the constitution, for remaining as an instructor for the president as well as for the governor, okay, and for also becoming a problem solver for both the state government as well as the central government, this judiciary has been kept as an independent body. Okay, so we can also say that we have an independent judiciary. What do we have? We have an independent judiciary. Okay. In India, we have a pyramid structure of the judiciary. Okay, or in India, the structure of the Indian judiciary is like a pyramid. Why did I say it's like a pyramid? See, it has the Supreme Court at the apex. Okay. We have Supreme Court at the apex. Okay, we have only one Supreme Court in India and that is at Delhi. Okay, we have only one Supreme Court in India. And then we have, below Supreme Court, we have high courts. Okay, in every state we have a high court. In almost every state we have a high court, except in some of the northeastern states because the population is very less over there. Okay, so sometime 2 or 3 states together have a high court on that side. Next is the subordinate courts at the bottom. Okay, so what did we learn? We studied that the Indian judicial system or the Indian judiciary is like a pyramid in structure, where we have the Supreme Court at the apex, next comes the High Court at every state level, and then comes the subordinate court, and I mean the district courts, the local courts, they all comes under this subordinate court. Okay. Now, I am going to discuss with you some of the characteristics of our Indian judiciary. Okay. Now, when I was telling you about the introduction of the Indian judiciary, that time only I have already discussed with you some of the characteristics. Okay. See students, the first characteristics of Indian judiciary is, it is an independent organ of the government. Okay. Now, judiciary has been kept as an independent organ of the government so that it can take the decision in an unbiased and in a neutral manner. Okay. Second is the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court of India is the final interpreter of the Constitution, or in other words, you can also say that the Indian judiciary is the final interpreter of the Constitution. Okay. Third characteristics is, it is the custodian of fundamental rights. What do you mean by custodian of fundamental rights? It is the protector of our fundamental rights. Okay. Next is the Supreme Court, or you can say the judiciary also works as an advisor for the president as well as for the governor. Okay. Now, in case of any dispute arises between the different states, between the central government, the state government, or maybe between two or more states, during that time the judiciary plays a very important role in resolving such disputes. Okay. Now, so these are the characteristics of our Indian judiciary. Now we will study about the Supreme Court in details. Okay. The Supreme Court of India is the highest court of appeal in India. Okay, or you can say it is the highest law-making body in India. Okay, that is Supreme Court. Now, what is the composition of the Supreme Court? Composition. It has one Chief Justice and 25 other judges. What did I say? The Supreme Court has a single Chief Justice, okay, and 25 other judges. Now, how is this Chief Justice and the 25 other judges appointed? The Chief Justice of India is appointed by the President, okay, after consultation with the outgoing Chief Justice and also with the Prime Minister. Okay. Now, what about the 25 other judges? The 25 other judges are also appointed by the President only, okay, but after consultation with the Chief Justice and the Prime Minister of India, okay. Now, next is, what is the tenure of all the judges? The tenure or the term of office, okay, their term is till 65 years. Okay, their term of office or their tenure is till 65 years of age. After that, the Chief Justice and the 25 other judges, they gets retired. Okay. Now, what are the qualifications required for becoming a judge of a Supreme Court? The first qualification required for becoming a judge of Supreme Court is, the person has to be a citizen of India. That is the first and foremost criteria. Now, number 2 is, he or she should have been a judge of High Court for around 5 years. Okay, then only he is eligible for becoming a judge of Supreme Court. Third qualification, he or she can also be an advocate at the High Court. Then also he or she is eligible for becoming a judge of Supreme Court. Okay, next is, he or she should have been a distinguished jurist. Okay, from there also sometime the President appoints a judge of Supreme Court. Is that clear? Okay. Now, I told you students that the term of the office of the judges are 65 years. But before that, if any judge is found biased, okay, or guilty of any offense, okay, then how is the judge removed from his office? He or she is removed from his office by the process of impeachment. How he or she is removed? By the process of impeachment. You remember, I guess, in your previous chapter I told you that the President is also removed from his office by the process of impeachment. Similarly, in the same way, the judges of the Supreme Court are also removed from their office by the process of impeachment. Now, I will tell you about the salary and allowances of the judges. The salary and allowances of the judges of Supreme Court are charged from the Consolidated Fund of India. Okay. Now we will discuss about the jurisdictions of the Supreme Court. First comes the original jurisdiction. Original jurisdiction. See students, Supreme Court or any of the court, they deals with only those cases that falls within its own jurisdiction. Okay, so under original jurisdictions, some of the cases of the Supreme Court are related to the center-state disputes. They may be related to the disputes between two or more states. It can be also related to dispute between two states. Okay, and violation of fundamental rights also falls within the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Okay, next comes the appellate jurisdiction. Next comes the appellate jurisdictions. Okay, now what do you mean by appellate jurisdictions? When people appeal to the Supreme Court, that is called an appellate jurisdiction. Okay, suppose a person or a victim has gone to the High Court, and after the decision of the High Court, the person is not satisfied with that decision. Then the person may move on to the Supreme Court. Okay, the Supreme Court deals with only those cases which comes from the High Court. Okay, and that is called the appellate jurisdiction of the High Court. Okay, sorry, appellate jurisdictions of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the apex court in India. Okay, so it is the apex court in taking decision in India. Now, if any person is not satisfied with the decision of the High Court, in that case, he may appeal to the Supreme Court. Okay, and the Supreme Court may reconsider that particular case. Okay, so that falls within the appellate jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Is that clear? Next, we will discuss about the advisory jurisdiction. Advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Apart from the original jurisdiction and the appellate jurisdiction, the Supreme Court also works as an advisory body. Now, for whom does it work as an advisory body? The Supreme Court works as an advisory body for the President of our country. Okay, the President of India may refer any cases that is related to public importance, okay, to the Supreme Court. Okay, now in that case also, the President of India is not bound to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court may give suggestion to the President of India regarding matter of public importance, but in that situation also, it depends entirely upon the President whether to accept the suggestion or the advice of the Supreme Court or not. Okay, so here goes your advisory jurisdiction. Now, next comes writs. Okay, now what are writs? Writs are the special powers of the Supreme Court, or you can also say writs are the special jurisdictions of the Supreme Court. Okay, now why do we need writs? Writs are utilized by the Supreme Court for protecting our fundamental rights. Okay, in case a person's fundamental right is violated, the person can directly go to the Supreme Court for its redressal. Okay, in that situation, the Supreme Court utilizes its writs jurisdiction to solve the issues related to violation of fundamental rights. Now, writs can be of various types: writs of certiorari, writs of mandamus, writs of prohibition, writs of quo warranto, and writs of habeas corpus. Okay, these are the various types of writs. Now, when you move on to the higher classes, you are going to study in details about the different kind of writs. Okay. So, students, today this was all about the Supreme Court. Okay, in my next class, I shall discuss with you about the High Court and the Subordinate Court. Till then, good day and thank you.